Bengals fans are amazing. They're resilient, they're tough, but they're fun. And I'm really excited to hopefully meet a lot more of you.
Isaac has the big game. Then we became a real balanced offense for the playoff run, which I thought was really important.
He put on the greatest route running exhibition I have ever seen in my life.
He was football 24/7, and that was the greatest part of Chad.
At times, the early part, I would tell him when we were throwing deep passes, I said, don't wait too long, because I'm going to get away. If you ain't going to have the arm to get there. So, I want to run to the ball,
Well, Duke, looks like Duke's in the waiting room. I don't want to keep Duke waiting. He gave us a very limited amount of time. I know he's a busy man. Duke, what's going on, big dog? How you doing, buddy?
Jim, how are you, man? Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
Hey.
I'm real busy. I'm sitting on my porch.
Yeah, well, hey. Have a little drink going on there.
Joe Burrow has played in big games his entire life, and I would think he will be a steady hand at the bow of the ship. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they take him all the way to the Super Bowl. I really wouldn't.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to and Friends. As you can see, the notorious Bengal Jim is not here. He's actually down at PBS doing. Oh, there he is.
What's up?
Oh no, he's driving.
I'm good. Mute me. I'll be on, but I'll be home in a minute.
Oh my goodness!
Watch the road,
This,
Jimmy.
you know what? This gives me
Watch the road, Jimmy.
This gives me flashbacks to the guy from Detroit.
The crack man.
The crack man. Detroit. Yeah, get home safe, Jimmy. Be
Teaching
careful.
my son how to drive.
Cut down day. Bengal Jim is still super fan, so all is good in the land of Bengaldom. And
What's he doing out there? Giving the guys a ride to the airport that didn't make the team, or what? Is he just chauffeuring around, or what's going on?
Speaking of that, cut down day, that can't be a fun job to call, whether it's a veteran or a rookie, and say, hey, love you, appreciate your time, but unfortunately, you're not going to stick here. I don't know if you guys remember way back when in the Hard Knocks, they went in and showed some of those conversations, and hard conversations, I should say. Not fun to have to do that, and unfortunately, part of the business. Great news for some, and not so great news for others. So, Tom, what's going on this Tuesday?
Cut down Tuesday. I guess maybe some mild surprises to us fans, but in reading what's been sort of leaked from what might be the thinking down at Paycor Stadium, not horrific surprises. And I guess one thing was the punting competition. Everything we've been kind of led to believe, and it was hinting toward maybe the Bengals were going to make a change, go with some youth, go with Drew Chrisman, and they did not. Our veteran, the other local boy, Kevin Huber, holds on to the job and now says he wants to punt till he's 40. Everybody wants to be Tom Brady. So, but and really, what did Kevin Huber do wrong this preseason? He looked as good as he's ever looked. We know how phenomenal he is putting the ball inside the 15 and the 10-yard line, and I think Evan McPherson is very comfortable with him holding. By the same token, I don't think Drew Chrisman did really a thing wrong either, and we may talk about that a little bit later with Pat McInally. But there might have been one minor surprise, but I don't think there was anything too earth-shattering in the decisions today. And everybody keeps in mind this roster will be in flux basically till the end of the week. And some of the guys that we really liked through the preseason, most of them will be on the practice squad. So there'll still be Bengals, and the attrition of the season, we'll see guys here and there.
Anything that stood out to you, Jamie, from today's 4 p.m. deadline?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was shocked about the punting, as we've already talked about here, and we talk a lot in our group chats back and forth. But I wonder how much of a say, and I think we mentioned, someone mentioned this today in one of our chats, is how much of an influence McPherson had on that decision. So it makes you wonder if there's a say there. And then a lot of people on social media, not liking our choice of backup quarterback. I'm not a big Brandon Allen fan myself, but I wish I had the link ready for today, but there was a really good article that was posted today, I think, on like a Buffalo Bills thing or something. The role of the backup quarterback is so much more than just stepping in, for an injured starter. It's a lot of research, a lot of game planning, and a lot of, like, I want to say mentorship, but even just a connection with the starting quarterback. The backup quarterback is on the backup quarterback is on the sidelines.
Yeah, wait. Hold on. We're going to pause this segment. Do you want to flex for us, Jamie,
I'm
before
not
we
flexing.
go any
I
further?
am not. There's nothing to flex, bro. There's nothing to flex.
All right.
Um, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Brandon Allen, and I don't think the decision is strictly made on who's going to replace Joe Burrow if Joe Burrow goes down. It's a lot more than just playing. It's the research. It's the connection and game planning that goes into it too. And I just don't think the rookie quarterbacks have the experience that Brandon Allen has. So not my first pick, but hopefully he doesn't have to play.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. That's
nothing
that's
personal,
the closest,
Brandon.
That's the closest to a flex you're to get right there when I'll do this.
Talking about the quarterbacks, I think I heard one interesting tidbit on Sirius XM today. I think 15 teams kept 2 quarterbacks. 15 teams kept 3 quarterbacks, and Dallas and Detroit are down to 1. This is going to be the Jamie show. Tom, we don't even have to talk.
You know what? Just go to a break. I'll put a shirt on, okay?
Well, the big news is that, keep an eye out. Cincy shirts, if not soon, certainly for the spring of next year, is going to have a special Jamie line.
Yeah, well, it'll be a cheaper shirt because it's missing half the material.
I don't even know where to go from there. But what is it? This is the last weekend without NFL football. As we know, it's the next Thursday night. I don't even know who's in the kickoff game. Obviously, our game Sunday at 1, which is going to be a long week of leading up to it. But like you said, certainly the roster cuts were made today. What we see today is not the end all be all. There's a couple guys that we're going to see slide to IR. That being Britt out of the cornerback out of Wisconsin, and who's the other one? Kareem, I believe. Are those the two, Tom, that are going to slide to
wide
IR?
receivers? Both wide receivers, and like you said, if there's one spot they may be looking at, they may be looking potentially to pick up, I think a veteran corner, in addition to eyeing the offensive line. But one guy that really busted tail, and going back to your first question, and not to interrupt you, Alan George made the team. Hopefully he's still there, because he certainly played very well all preseason, worked his tail off, very intelligent, and hopefully will be called on to contribute in all the right ways this year. Hopefully teams are putting 4 and 5 wide receivers against us because they're behind by several touchdowns in the second half. But he made the team. And one thing that still stands out with Zach Taylor, it seems like, by and large, and we're not in there, but everything we read and everything we're told by our friends down there and our friends in the media, the culture of that locker room means a lot to the coaching staff and management. And they seem to keep stocking those type of guys in there. Not just Boy Scouts, but Boy Scouts that are really good football players.
One thing we saw a lot on social media today, this is the 1-year anniversary of the Billy Price for BJ Hill trade. Unfortunately, Duke couldn't pull that off this year, but certainly some interesting cuts out there. We've talked about our roster a little bit. We know we still need depth on the offensive line. Alex Leatherwood was a big name that was tossed around. People saying we also need help at the tight end position. OJ Howard was cut in Buffalo, was another interesting name thrown around. Interesting and cut on that end, as he was guaranteed. I see our buddy Greg here says you need a backup tight end. Greg's not a Drew Sample fan, apparently, but interesting that Buffalo front loaded that contract, gave him $3 million, and cut him. So you wonder what the particulars were there. Was it a mental thing? Was it not showing up? Was it not wanting to block? Was it just wanting to be an offensive guy? Personality. So interesting there. Certainly when you see players cut and they have talent, you always second guess, hey, what else was involved in that decision making? Sometimes you never know. Sometimes the truth eventually comes out.
James, you make a great point on A.J. Howard, because the Bills not only front load, I mean, that was a guaranteed contract. They're on the hook for they're paying that guy $3 million to not play for them. So something's definitely up there. I don't know if it's work ethic, grasp of the playbook, or just maybe some young guys that simply outplayed him and they couldn't cut. But, it's something else to remind everybody about. With the success of the team last year, right now we're 31st out of 32 teams on the waiver wire. So there are 30 teams that get a crack at everybody before us. So if we're going to sign somebody, I think it's going to be a veteran. So, we'll go a step at a time and see what goes on. But the coaching staff certainly seems to be very comfortable with the guys they have.
We know our love for the LSU players, obviously, with Joe and Chase. However, we did see two LSU players cut today, one being the 4th-round pick, Tyler Shelvin, on the defensive line, who struggled to be active most game days last year. Saw a lot of time in preseason. Part of it may be that it's a different NFL now, with everybody throwing the ball all over the field. That big run-stopping, nose tackle, defensive tackle isn't what it was even 6 years ago. So we saw him gone. Thaddeus Moss, who struggled in the preseason with some holding penalties, another high-profile name that was cut. Anybody else you want to touch on for players cut today at 4?
From us, not really. I don't think there were any monster surprises. There were some fan favorites. And like I said, I think those guys, if they don't find homes with other NFL teams, will be they didn't clean their locker out, because they'll be back on the practice squad at Paul Brown Stadium. And, we'll see as the year goes on. Tyler Shelvin surprises me just from a standpoint that he has not improved in the way he did. He was a little bit all over the board when the Bengals wanted him. I know there were a couple reports that the Patriots picked not too many selections after us, and Belichick wanted him bad. But we'll have to see. We'll go a little bit at a time. I like their depth on the defensive line. We'll certainly know if they can play the run in week 1 against the Steelers.
So Pat McInally was scheduled to be on. Apparently there is a scheduling conflict there. One of the questions we hope to touch on with him was that punting issue. We touched on this briefly before. Kevin didn't do anything to lose the job. Obviously, what is it? His next game will be the most in Bengals history as somebody dressed. So that's a pretty cool feat for the hometown kid. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Drew Chrisman. I can remember even when we had our buddy Deep Fried Draft on talking about the punter situation and special teams overall. We know the lightning in a bottle we caught with Evan McPherson last year. And then there was this punter out of San Diego State was the same thing on the punting side. Unfortunately, the terrible news that came out of Buffalo this week about his allegations from college, they quickly did the right thing and cut ties with him. So certainly it could be a totally different ball game there. But
but look for that kid to end up in Cleveland.
There was a meme going around of them signing him. So yeah, you might be right. But on a serious note, where does Drew Chrisman end up? Is he back to our practice squad, I believe, which he's eligible to be part of, or does another team scoop him up and put him on their 53-man roster?
I didn't see the final cuts in Buffalo, but I think that's going to be the leading leading spot, would it not be? I didn't see them signing anybody to fill that role.
There are 2 spots. I know Denver's looking for a punter. They
Mhm.
cut their veteran punter, and then Buffalo. So I would think Drew would be very attractive on the waiver wire to both of those. Denver will be first on the waiver wire if they want to claim him. So, but yeah, he could end up in Denver or Buffalo. And I'll tell you what, in that altitude with that foot, he'll be kicking 70-yarders in Denver if he goes to Denver. But keeping in mind with that, though, and Jamie, I don't know, we almost talked about this today, but didn't. When you've got a veteran like Kevin Huber being, and it was a very close competition, but when you've got a veteran like Kevin Huber, I don't think it's enough to just be equally as good or a little bit better. I think you've got to really clearly win that competition.
100%.
By a lot. And I don't think that happened. And that's, again, nothing against Drew Chrisman, who had an outstanding offseason and an outstanding preseason, showed us all that he can hold for Money Mac. But, he probably just didn't do that, quick enough. And if we're playing in the Super Bowl and we're ahead by 2 points with a minute left to go and we're at midfield, who do you want punting for you?
So
Kevin Huber.
I apologize if I'm bringing this up a second time. I don't know if this comment made it up yet, but our buddy Dalton said, the chemistry between Money Mac, Clark Harris, Kevin Huber, tough one to beat, especially with the culture and everything that the Zach's instilled in the players. So I agree with you, Tom. Like you said, if you're going to unseat a veteran like Kevin, you need to come out and be way better, not just a close competition. So if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Jimmy, welcome.
Hey, Jimmy.
Sorry, guys. I had to drop a couple of the guys off the airport. I had to drop Moss off the airport. He needed a ride. So I had the Bengal bus down there. I had loads of them taking them to the airport. And they weren't. It was not good, brother. So not my bad. I don't mean to joke about that. That's tough for those guys, right? Those guys work their butts off, man. So hopefully some of these guys can land somewhere, man. They work too hard, their whole careers to get to this point. So hopefully some of these guys can land somewhere.
Yep. Well, hopefully someone will be back on our practice squad. You got to like the long snapper out of Pitt, Cal Dominus. I'm not sure how to announce his last name. Certainly some of those wide receivers would like to sneak on the practice squad.
For sure.
So we'll see what we'll see what happens in that regard. It's just going to be a fluid situation for the next 48, 72 hours, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I know you guys. Sorry, I think we're all out of order here. I'm sorry for being late, guys. But did you guys already share the information about Pat not being able to make it?
We did, but what's really engulfed the first part of this segment, Jimmy, that you've missed is Jamie without any sleeves on his shirt.
Oh, I was watching it.
All the girls in the chat were very excited about the fact our Canadian Wonder Boy has no sleeves on his shirt.
Yeah, too funny.
Yeah, well, it's not winter up here right now, so I can wear this.
I do, James Rapien should be in a minute. I did text him. He'll be here in a little bit. Pat apologizes for not being here, guys. He feels awful about it. But he did want me to share a couple stories he shared with me earlier this week. I'm going to try to do the best I can to kind of communicate to you what he was talking about. So he was talking about punting competition he said 1975. It wasn't 100% sure. Jeez. It's going to be like this all show, Jamie.
It is, yeah.
Take me off screen. I'll go put a shirt on.
No, not now. Not now.
I'm not going to. Have you seen James Rapien? The guy's a beast. I don't want to be on it. I don't want to be in the same show with James Rapien.
We might just keep it like this the rest of the show.
Our female demographics are going to
James Rapien actually has muscle. I'm embarrassing myself here.
Keep him on full screen right now. Our ratings are just shooting. Yeah, James, you're right, man. Look at these numbers.
You know what? One thing. Hopefully James is ready. Maybe we can have like a flex off between James and Jamie here tonight.
Got to make that happen. But let me tell you, so the funny story. He had 2 stories, and Pat was talking about 1975 punting competition, 4 punters. Tom, I don't have the names in front of me. I can't remember, but 4 punters were on in this punting competition, and they're in the preseason games. And they had at that point 6, 7 preseason games, something crazy. and he said they were one of the punters. What was his name? Dave.
Dave Green was
Dave Green.
He was a combination kicker and punter for the Bengals for a
Right.
couple years.
So it was Dave's job, right? He didn't want to lose this job. So they were out in the preseason games, and Tiger Johnson and Paul Brown told him to go out. He was gonna punt. Well, Dave Green had already went out there. He's in the huddle with Pat McInally. He refused to leave the huddle. Flag, penalty, happened 3 times in one game, something to that effect. Paul Brown was not a happy camper. But there were some other things that had happened. But the funniest story that he was sharing was he didn't want to be a holder for extra points and field goals. Like literally did not want to. So Coach Tiger Johnson, I'm assuming, was coaching special teams. Tom at the time, I can't remember. 1975, Paul Brown was still head coach. But he went out there and was holding, and he missed 3 consecutive snaps for the extra point or the field goal. And literally he dropped all 3 of them. Coach Tiger Johnson said, I thought you had good hands. And he said, I just can't catch on one knee, Coach. And Coach Tiger Johnson just said, don't worry about it. You don't have to hold anymore. It wasn't that he missed those on accident. He did that on purpose so he didn't have to hold. He just did not want to do that. So he would have told those stories way better. But this dude had me cracking up earlier this week, all the stories he was sharing on that stuff.
In this day and age, we know how important that holding is. Obviously, that was one of the things that came down in the final decision making. Not that Drew botched any extra points or field goals in the preseason, but that was certainly a big discussion. If you remember back a couple of weeks when we had the Willie Anderson reunion there, I think Shane Graham was the one that brought it up of, there's a lot less punting now, going for longer field goals, especially when you have somebody like Evan McPherson on your team. So being able to get that ball down for Evan to kick 3 is important. Let's just pull up AJ's comment because we haven't had a Jamie comment in here. Brad Pitt comparison, Jamie, tonight?
What the heck's going on tonight? I mentally prepare for the show every week, but I don't think about my wardrobe. So I'm gonna have to start thinking about that before I come on the air.
Hey, we could tell, Jamie.
Hey, if you have a question right now, just pop it up. We're gonna. This is like questions with us. Jimmy, is this a new hat?
It's absolutely not. This is the old hat, Tony. It's still old. It's the old one. I don't like the new one. My sister made more for me. She's making some new ones.
Speaking of Tony and your sister, she came down with like real whiskers.
Yeah, she literally had whiskers. I think she super glued them to her face, though. I don't know how. I think she just ripped her skin off when she got home. I don't know, but she had whiskers. Literally. Have we talked about the big news, guys, on the tailgate? The 30 years.
We waited for you to come on because we thought that was something that you should definitely be talking about.
Any one of us could have done. I wasn't sure if I missed that, but guys, I can tell you right now, man. This tailgate thing in 1993 started with a charcoal grill and a cooler full of beers with a bunch of buddies of mine. From that day to what it has become, the platform now that we have with this podcast that you guys are watching, the tailgate, what it has done for the charities that you guys have been able to help with has been absolutely unbelievable. Something we never would have thought happened, but this year is our 30th anniversary of that tailgate. 30 years, every game, not missing a tailgate. 30 consecutive years, even through COVID. We had that lot, James, if you remember, down there on Pete Rose Way. That was 100 parking spots. We pre-sold 40 spots. We spaced everybody out with a Jumbotron. The game's going on. Joe Burrow's first start. We couldn't get in that stadium, but we still did a tailgate. So it's amazing what this tailgate has done and what it's become. And I'm just going to tell you, give you a sneak peek. There's some things going to be happening this year that are going to be unbelievable. So over the next probably 6 to 8 days, you're going to see a bunch of new stuff posted on social media, kind of letting you know who to expect at the tailgate, what things are going on at the tailgate. So I can't go any further than that, but we'll be sharing some new stuff here coming up with everybody.
And that, as you said, it's been a progression of the tailgate, whether it was a COVID year and the private lot, whether it was Lot B, and then the changes that were made to the amphitheater to where we're now in Lot E. It's grown. People have come and gone, but the one thing that's been there is you, Bengal Jim. So congratulations.
Set next to Yeah, hey, Lauren, I remember that. We sat there drinking some beers, watching that big jumbotron for that opening Joe Burrow's first game. I'll never forget that. That was a great time.
Not only we had the video up there, but I think we had the audio from the radio broadcast. I think it was Dan and Lap for that game. So
right,
a lot of fun, and kudos to you because let's be honest, there was some thin years there where there wasn't people going to the games, let alone tailgating. So sticking it out through thick and thin. Heck, we got people that are watching tonight that aren't even 30 years old. So kudos to you for doing that for 30 years, and we'll have
Derek. Yeah, that's pretty good, Derek.
From Soup Kitchen.
Oh my god!
See, that's why we need a guest every second of this show. It gets out of control.
Hey, the fans drive the show. They see what they see. If there's anybody up in Canada that can suggest or recommend a place that has box springs for Jamie and a frame for his bed, just if you put
what you're not seeing is I do have a bed frame, and whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be in the office next week. I'll be in the office next week.
Hey guys,
I'll be back to my green screen setup.
Hey James, you want to talk about? I think Caleb put the new. I think there was a post earlier today from the Cincinnati Bengals on the new practice bubble. You want to go ahead and drive that conversation, James?
Yeah, Caleb, if you don't mind popping that up. So thank you to Caleb for all his hard work behind the scenes. But this is something that the Bengals, quite frankly, have been slammed in the media for years. Why don't they have the investment or make the investment of having a practice bubble? Why, some high schools have them and we don't. Why do they have to go to UC to do it? So I think this is just the step in the next direction of a lot of the changes that we've seen Elizabeth bring to the Bengals, and kudos to them for that. At the end of the day, I'm not sure it made much a difference in the win-loss column, but now, hey, if the players are a little more comfortable when it comes December and January, and we're getting ready for a Super Bowl, awesome. So here we are, and you just start to see progressions. I know, Jimmy, you posted some on Twitter. You saw the lot being cleared. You saw the foundation around it. Now we see the green turf laid, and then it was the line stripe. Then it was the tiger stripes in the end zone. So, great news. It's here. With people like who's the punter from Indianapolis that was giving the Bengals a hard time? Tom, who am I thinking of? Pat
McAfee.
Pat McAfee.
We got to get his ass. We got to get his ass down here for a tailgate, man.
So it's here. So again, this is from the Ring of Honor to the practice bubble to all these little things that Elizabeth spearheaded and the rest of the Brown and Blackburn family. Kudos to them. And come wintertime, they'll be sitting in the toasty bubble.
I think with that, we were just talking about the culture in the locker room, the winning culture in the locker room, doing every guy down there doing everything they can to win, and the same with the coaching staff. It shows that upstairs they want to do that too. No stone being left unturned to show the class of the organization. They've embraced the history of the organization with the Ring of Honor and doing everything possible to let the team win. And if that means, an indoor practice facility, then we'll get a new one and it'll be the best. So, again, congratulations to the Bengals for that. One thing though with that, and it caused some debate and then it kind of died down. And this is a friend of the show, a former guest, Bengals Mike Cart was cut the other week. He's been replaced by a podium, and that kind of happened quietly, but it was noted in certain media circles. And Mr. Cart is a big fan of the show. He might be watching. So if he'd like to log in and address his feelings on it, I don't know if he's got another role within the organization or he was just completely let go. But
Tom, we got to ask our buddy Beerfest Craig about that, because remember we made a debut of the Bengals cart at a tailgate. Craig was serving Bengal bombs off the Bengals cart. So maybe we can sign him to a contract at Bengal gyms and have them part of the tailgate every Sunday and serve Bengal bombs off them. What do you think?
Hey, real quick, guys. James Rapien said he's getting ready to log on right now. Before James comes on, can't go into a whole lot of details, guys. But you guys are obviously we were just talking about the practice facility. Just came back from Paul Brown Stadium. The reason I was late, can't get into a whole lot of detail, but I can tell you right now, when you go into Paul Brown Stadium on September 11th, there's a lot of new things up in and around the stadium that weren't there for the first 2 preseason games. So
it's going to take a long time to start calling this thing Paycor Stadium, isn't it?
Did I say Paul Brown again?
Twice. That's okay, but it's going to take forever. It's going to. Will we ever call it that? I don't know. It's going to take.
Yeah, it's like remember the old Riverfront. I could never call it Synergy Field. I just couldn't do it. So, but there's a lot of new things up in and around the stadium, Paycor Stadium, that was not there. Absolutely was not there for. The first two preseason games. We just talked about the Mike cart. Tom just brought up. This Saturday, we're doing some tailgate prep, and I've already started cleaning out the garage a little bit. And lo and behold, in the corner of the garage, the Mike cart is still in my garage. So we're probably going to bring the Mike cart down, James, and put the Bengal bombs on the Mite cart and serve those. Let Craig run around serving Bengal bombs. If James Rapien ever makes it to a tailgate, he's going to have to do a Bengal bomb for us. So.
Well, James Rapien does not have a tank top on like Jamie, so I don't know if the flex off is going to happen. But I guarantee you, he will have lots of information about cut down day. You ready to bring him on?
Let's go.
Let's go,
Mr. Rapien. What's going on, big dog? How you doing?
Well, there won't be any flex offs, so don't worry. But it's unless Jamie wants to. That's fine.
No, I'm good. You win. I've already conceded victory to you, so it's fine.
As far as the Bengal bombs, well, I'd be happy to do plenty. Probably not at the tailgate because it's before the game, but yeah, plenty any other time. Maybe the night before a game, I could do that.
I think somebody posted a picture, James, of you and I, and it looked like maybe you had a few too many that night. Maybe it was me had a few too many, but it was a good picture. I need to share it with you, but. I think it was that night down at the Blind Pig. Maybe I don't even remember at this point. Or maybe it was the Holy Grail. I don't know.
No, it was they tagged us on social media.
Yeah,
right? That was the Coolio. We were on stage.
Oh Lord, yeah.
So you had too many. I still remember that. Even though I had plenty.
I got pictures and videos, James.
That was wild.
Everybody, James Rapien, absolutely media legend. This guy's like building an empire right now with everything he's doing. Locked on Bengals. James is just one of the best guys, been around a long time. And this dude, what is that face? What the hell is that?
That's a good one right there. Look at that.
Look at Caleb's just got everything behind the scenes tonight. Kudos to Caleb.
That last picture looked like it was on a Nokia phone. I don't know who took that photo, but it's all pixelated.
But everybody that's watching right now, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and obviously the folks that are listening live or that will be listening on the pod, James taking time tonight with us. This guy has had a busy week, and today I don't think he went to bed last night. He's been doing all the the cut down day, but this guy's been working his ass off. So James, we appreciate you being on with us, buddy.
Of course, no, thanks for having me. It's been exciting. You're right, it's been busy, but. It's a good busy. It's always good to be busy during football season for sure. So no complaints on my end.
All the viewers right now, as you're watching, any questions you have for James, make sure you put them in, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. So we appreciate you doing that. So Tom, we'll let you kick this off with James. We have so much stuff to ask him and to get to.
James, has been remarked, and we've all kind of known and gotten used to. Even though it's cut down day, the roster is very fluid. There are still going to be guys coming back to the practice squad. Of the guys on the 53-man roster now and how it's set up, what are the Bengals looking at on the waiver wire, which is tough because they're 31 or 32, or what veteran free agents who are not waived, they can just straight up sign? What position groups do you think they're still hunting?
Well, it begins and ends with the offensive line, right? I certainly hope that's what they're looking at. That's it's been the talk of the past 5 years. I mean, we were doing our chat earlier on Joe's show, and someone was bringing up, well, they traded for Cordy Glenn and they traded down and that cost them Frank Ragnow and, all these things. So we've been talking about offensive line for half a decade and it causing issues. So on the surface, this starting offensive line should be good, but the depth is certainly a question mark. Does anyone feel great about Jackson Carman after what we saw in the preseason? Anybody feel great about, Deontay Smith and his development? I actually feel pretty good about Trey Hill. I thought he looked good throughout the exhibition season and through camp. So there are certain guys that have flashed, but you can't have enough of them. And I think that they certainly want to look at, the guard spot, maybe the tackle spot. And there are some guys out there. I don't know if you want me to name names or not. There are some guys out there, though, that I think that they'll at least have a conversation about for sure.
Yeah,
staying along that.
Hey, James, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, James. On this next thing, so I just want to make sure that all of our viewers really know who James Rapien is. There's people that don't know who you are, James. So Andrew,
of course, Andrew's the one. Of course, Andrew's the one, right? Well, Andrew, I appreciate the question. I cover the Bengals for SI, allbengals.com, the Locked On Bengals podcast daily, and Cincinnati Bengals Talk here on YouTube. Andrew, something tells me you're really going to like the Cincinnati Bengals Talk stuff, so make sure you check that out.
That was perfect. That was awesome. my bad, James. Go ahead.
No, all good. So going back to the offensive line, we saw first-round draft pick Alex Leatherwood get cut after 1 year in Las Vegas. There were some rumors going around prior to today at 4:00 that maybe Jackson Carman, who we invested a second-round pick in last year as well, was maybe on the chopping block. Was that just internet fluff, or was there any truth to that, knowing how soft or not lack of depth on that offensive line?
Yeah, I don't think there was ever really a realistic scenario where they were going to part ways with Jackson Carman. Did I, discuss the idea? Yeah, sure. I mean, think about it. Last year, Michael Jordan was the starting left guard to start the preseason or start training camp rather with the ones. And he didn't end up on that, the final roster. But with Carman, he's still 22 years old and they do like his traits, right? It's not like it's 50 bad reps. It's 7 bad reps out of 50, but those reps are awful and they stand out. And so he needs to be more consistent. And that's what the coaching staff has said. So no, I'm not surprised that they didn't, part ways with him, so to speak. I mean, they made it through, 3 years with Billy Price that was up and down, 4 years with John Ross that was up and down. Even if they get picks wrong, they try to get the most out of those guys. As far as a guy like Alex Leatherwood goes, it makes sense, but you can't claim him. And I don't think he's going to get claimed. There's like a $6 million or so in guarantees over the next 3 years if they did claim him. And look, he's the 17th overall pick from a year ago. There should be some guaranteed money. I think all 31 other teams, not the Raiders, of course, all 31 other teams are going to say, nope, we're not claiming him. We'll let him become an unrestricted free agent, and then we'll have a conversation. And I think that's when the Bengals should have a conversation because he's a 23-year-old former first rounder that should have been a second rounder, kind of like Carman. Carman should have been a third rounder. That's where he was, and the Bengals took him in the second. Leatherwood should have been a second rounder, and the Raiders took him in the middle of the first. And it was a reach at the time, and it certainly feels that way now. But tested like an elite guard, the Raiders used him a lot at tackle. Maybe you bring him in here, and you just try to play him at guard and get him some reps at guard. And it really depends on a few things. One, do the Bengals, how did they evaluate him pre-draft in 2021 when he was the 17th overall pick? 2, do they feel comfortable with him essentially getting cut by the Raiders after a year? Yeah, it's tough for a first-round pick to do. And then 3, where do they want to play him? Where do they envision him? Is he willing to come for a league minimum type deal, 1 year type prove it deal? Because I think that's what he would have to take to kind of reestablish, his credibility, reestablish his chances of having a successful NFL career. So I wouldn't shut the door on it. I don't think any team's going to claim him, but the Bengals should certainly have a conversation if he does go unclaimed.
James, help the fans understand. I think there's a lot of confusion on social media. So the Bengals, so somebody gets waived. The Bengals are the 31st, basically 30 other teams have to go through that particular waiver before the Bengals even get to them, right? Can you help people understand that a little better?
Yeah, so waivers are as of now, teams are starting to put in their, waiver claims if they see a guy, right? So let's just use Alex Leatherwood. Again, I don't think he's going to get claimed. Actually, you know what? Let's go. Let's hit Bengals fans where it hurts. Let's go with Kendrick Pryor, right? Because everyone thinks Kendrick Pryor is going to get claimed. I think it's probably 50-50 whether or not he gets claimed, and I could totally see him being on the practice squad. But if a team decides they want Kendrick Pryor, well, they put in a claim, and the team with the highest claim and the highest waiver priority gets that player. So it's based on record from last season because there's no records yet. It hasn't reset. So the Bengals, well, they were the AFC champions. They were the second best team in the NFL. They're 31st. So the odds of them being awarded anybody on waivers, it really means that 30 other teams have to pass on that guy, which is possible, no doubt about it. But that is much less likely this year than it was, say, a year ago when the Bengals had the fifth, and they were fifth in waiver priority going into the season.
Got it. Tom?
Yeah, James, you mentioned some other name, but on the flip side, the defense, do you see them looking for anything special? Tyler Shelvin was let go today. They're always on the hunt for pass.
Tom's breaking up there.
Yeah, I know where he was going, though. It's all right. Yeah, I think I do. I think defense is in play, Tom, in a couple spots. First one, you're right. The interior of that defensive line, they have 4 interior defensive linemen right now, and it's kind of thin. There's big guys in the middle, kind of thing. You got DJ Reader, Josh Tupou, and then BJ Hill, and who am I missing? I'm missing Zach Carter, of course, the third rounder, who flashed this preseason, is going to have a role. But yeah, you get Tyler Shelvin out of there and you look, and yeah, you can move Cam Sample inside. You can move Joseph Osai or Sam Hubbard inside at times from that defensive end spot, but you don't have a true 3 tech, even though Hill's going to take some of those spots or some of those snaps. So yeah, I do. I think that they could certainly go that route and add a defensive lineman specifically on the interior. You certainly can't have enough edge rushers. And then the other spot, and I think it's a really cool story, Alan George making the team, but we saw last year, Lou Anarumo, former defensive backs coach, this team isn't going to be afraid to claim a cornerback they like. Trey Flowers, when he was released by the Seahawks, everyone's like, Trey Flowers can't cover, and he's been bad. And Lou Anarumo, excited to get him. They get him, and guess what? He's played great all preseason long, all training camp long. I think he looks really, really good. And Cam Taylor-Britt getting, having that core muscle surgery kind of opened the door for Flowers to show what he can do as a corner. And obviously last year we saw what he did against opposing tight ends. So wouldn't shock me at all if they look at a corner potentially, or certainly try to boost that defensive line. Those are the 2 spots I would think on defense they'd be on the hunt for.
Right.
Another name or position that's been talked about on social media and amongst fans is that tight end position. I think Hayden Hurst has had a good preseason. They like what they've seen from him. Behind him, Drew Sample, which again, somebody else that was drafted in the second round that maybe hasn't lived up to the expectations we thought. We keep hearing the name O.J. Howard thrown out. What about that tight end position? Is O.J. Howard possibly in play?
I think he could be. There are some question marks there, right? So he's coming off of the torn Achilles from 2 years ago now, played for the Bucs a bit last year, and then obviously went through camp and preseason with the Bills. Does he have any juice left? Because he was this freak athlete coming out of the 2017 draft. Oh my goodness. Everyone's OJ Howard. He can run so fast and jump so high. And, I didn't buy into it as much because he wasn't as productive at Alabama as a freakish athlete should be if you're playing tight end. But is he able to do what you want as a blocker? I think so. Is he able to contribute on special teams? I think so. Is he athletic enough, and is he a good enough of a pass catcher to do something at tight end in this offense if you need him to? And the answer to all of those, I think, is yes. So it's going to come down to a couple of things. One, why did the Bills say, we're going to pay you $3 million as a contending team, by the way, $3 million to go home and go play for somebody else? That's kind of weird. But if you get past that, could he be your third tight end? Do I feel okay with O.J. Howard behind Drew Sample and behind Hayden Hurst, of course? I do, because I think that Hurst is obviously this pass catching, dominant playmaking type tight end that's going to run a bunch of seam routes and catch a bunch of passes and be pretty good in this offense. Drew Sample's a great blocker. I think Howard can kind of be the in-between because I don't think he's got the juice Hurst has after, that torn Achilles that he suffered. And I don't necessarily think he's the blocker that Sample is, but he might be a little bit of both. And that's what you're hoping Mitch Wilcox is anyways. So yeah, if Howard's willing to come here for, a veteran minimum type deal after making $3 million from the Bills to play 0 snaps, I would be interested for sure.
Yep. James, do you want to go to, you have a question or you have viewer questions too?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this before you came on the air, but Jennifer's asking what your thoughts are on keeping Brandon Allen over Jake Browning. We talked earlier in the show that there's a lot more to the backup quarterback position than just playing if the starting quarterback's hurt. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, let's start with the playing part. I think people are just bored of Brandon Allen, and they like the flashy new toy in Jake Browning when Brandon Allen's one who's actually done it in real games that matter. Brandon Allen went into Houston and beat Deshaun Watson with a bad Bengals roster, and it was a bad Texans team. But again, say that out loud. Brandon Allen went into Houston and beat Deshaun Watson in one of Watson's last starts for the Texans. That the dime to T. Higgins that he threw in the corner of the end zone was just insane. It was one of T. Higgins' best catches, and it was probably Brandon Allen's best throw of his career. But really, it was the Giants game, I think, where people were like, man, Brandon Allen just isn't it. He finished 14 of 20. He's completing 70% of his passes. Did he overthrow Stanley Morgan Jr. on a potential touchdown? He did. He missed that throw, no doubt about it. Were there a couple times where those comeback routes, the timing was off with him and his receiver? That's what it is. When the ball sails out of bounds and the receiver's coming out of his break, sometimes it just looks like the throw is really bad. Sometimes the timing is just a little off. And I feel like it was a timing thing more than anything where him and his receiver were just on different pages, and he still completed 70% of his passes. I thought he played really well the other night against the Rams. And so that's the thing is, if Jake Browning or Brandon Allen had to start half the season, that's a big problem anyways. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
But I think the Bengals coaching staff feels confident that if it's a month, if you have to go a month with Brandon Allen, he can go 2-2 and keep you afloat. And Jake Browning got a bunch of great reps. He hadn't played much even in the preseason in his NFL career. So I think it was good for him. I'm hopeful, and I know they're hopeful that he'll end up on the practice squad. But even without all that backup quarterback responsibility, his relationship with Joe, and people know that his relationship with Burrow, how comfortable they are with him in the room as a backup, all of those things. Take all of that out. I don't think Brandon Allen did anything to lose the job as far as his play goes. And I think that matters as much as anything. So I know there's been a lot of fans on the anti-Brandon Allen train. I'm not in that camp at all. I thought he played pretty well this preseason, and I think they made the right call.
I think you're right. People get bored, right? They all want the new shiny toy. That's a great way to put it.
And I like toys too. I'm not worried about backup quarterback as much right now.
Right. I got one more, I guess we'll throw up here.
Sure.
You might have already sort of answered this earlier, but what was your biggest surprise cut, if you had any?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Drew Chrisman losing to Kevin Huber is certainly a surprise. I don't know if it's a big surprise, but it's certainly a surprise. The Mike Thomas one, but the only reason it's a surprise, it's obviously temporary, is because it was them two, really. I've been going back and forth with Bengals fans. I'm like, Brandon Allen's making this team. Mike Thomas is making this team. And it's hilarious. Once Mike Thomas they found out that Mike Thomas got released, and he's a vested veteran. He'll be back in 2 days, maybe even tomorrow. We'll see. But the funny part about it was a few people tweeted me like, Mike Thomas got cut. And I'm like, well, not really. But no, there wasn't many surprises, right? I think the Chrisman one is a little bit, but it's really a testament to this roster. Like who was really battling for a spot of significance, right? There just wasn't much. Like going into camp, we were talking about the sixth wide receiver, or we were talking about the punter battle. The long snapper battle wasn't even a battle because we knew it just seemed like Clark Harris, it was his job to lose. And you looked at the preseason games and it seemed that way, and he didn't lose it because he played great. So there weren't many battles. to be won by young guys or newcomers. And that's a testament to Duke Tobin and the rest of this Bengals organization, because I think it's a really damn good roster. And I can't think of a time where it was kind of this, anticlimactic on cutdown day. I mean, what are we talking about here? Undrafted guys at receiver getting cut. That happens across the league. Guys that impressed in preseason, at the receiver position. The Lions cut a guy who did that. The Rams cut some guys that did that. That happens. And so hopefully those guys can come back on the practice squad. But yeah, there weren't many surprises today. I'd say that.
Yeah. Hey, James, let's go back to the scrimmage. I'm sorry, the practice with the Rams. It sounded like that first day practice was kind of like nothing happened, very boring, no trash talking or anything like that. Then day 2, things go wild. Aaron Donald swinging helmets. My question to you really is, one's kind of half jokingly, but I wanted to get your impression of that particular practice. And I want to know, who in the hell put Aaron Donald on his ass? Was it Volson?
Oh, I don't know exactly who. I could try to check the film again. I heard Karras, right, okay, which would make a lot of sense. But yeah, Volson, I think Volson was the one that got hit with one of the helmets. He still had his helmet on. I'll say this, man. Cordell Volson's a big dude. And North Dakota State and the stuff that he was brought up to, I won't want to mess with the guy, even if I'm Aaron Donald. And I get it. Aaron Donald's got the grown man strength. Cordell Volson's just 24 years old. That's not the tree I'm barking up. Ted Karras the same. Ted Karras is cut from that. He's 30 years old, 29 years old. So he's fully developed in the NFL, much like Donald. But no, I'm not sure who threw him now. But yeah, you could feel the intensity in that practice building up. And Lyle Collins got into it a couple of times with Leonard Floyd, and you could feel it. I didn't necessarily anticipate the helmet swinging incident necessarily. As far as a fight goes, I think that happens when you're practicing. There aren't any penalties. There's no penalty for doing that, right? You're in a practice. So it's like if you're at the ball field or on the basketball court or whatever, and you're that competitive. It's two teams that expect to be back in Super Bowl 57. That was the fun part about last week for me, is I've covered joint practice before. In 2016, it was Bengals Vikings, and those were good teams, right? They were expecting to be pretty good that year, but it wasn't like this. I mean, this was Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase. This was Aaron Donald versus the interior of this Bengals offensive line. This was Joe Burrow throwing to T. Higgins. And, it's just all these stars. Joe Mixon running behind Cordell Volson. It was a lot of fun to watch. And I think both teams are really, really good. And I think they got much better from practicing against each other for a few days, even though that fight and scuffle kind of stole the headlines.
Got it. I think we'll keep you just a couple more questions. I think Tom has a question for you, James.
Yeah, James, jumping ahead a week after the roster gets settled and everything else. How does the 2022 Cincinnati Bengals match up against the healthy 2022 and very grumpy Pittsburgh Steelers in week 1?
I think the Steelers are better than some believe they are. And so for one, does it matter if it's Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett? Not really. I think they want to run the ball, play great defense, make a couple plays on the outside, and that's kind of their blueprint. For the Bengals, this offensive line, that's kind of the key for me. How do they handle TJ Watt? How do they handle that interior for the Steelers? Edwards, all these guys that they have to deal with. And so that part is going to be tough. And not Edwards, Cam, what's his name? The defensive tackle for the Steelers. Anyway,
we don't know any of the players.
Cam Hayward
on that team.
Yeah, Cam Hayward. Yeah. So how does Cordell Volson? Because that's what I would do. I would try to isolate Cordell Volson and Cam Hayward and try to make the most of that matchup, at least early if you're the Steelers. So that's the part. Lyle Collins, he's going to see a lot of TJ Watt. But if you keep Burrow upright, that secondary, as good as it is, and that defense as good as it is, they're not going to be able to keep up with this Bengals offense. They're just not. In the Bengals defense, guess what they're built to do? They're built to stop the run. They are good at stopping the run, and that's what this team is going to want to do. And I'll say this. If I'm the Steelers, I would try to kind of switch gears from last year, try to push the ball down the field early and try to catch the Bengals off guard. I don't know if they'll do that, because they have a bad offensive line. And so this could be a Trey Hendrickson game, a DJ Reader, BJ Hill game. Maybe you see a little Zach Carter in his debut. So I think it's going to be a fun one. The Bengals, I think, have the better quarterback, have more weapons, and maybe aren't as good on defense on paper, but they're close. So it should be a fun one.
Yeah. So James, one more question before we get you out here, man. It means a lot you being with us. I know all the work you put a lot of stuff, but let's just talk about the season in general. And I'm going to preface this by saying the offensive line stays healthy. Where do you see the Bengals going this year if that offensive line stays healthy all year?
I mean,
best case scenario. Come on.
I mean, I'll see you in Phoenix, right? I mean, if the offensive line stays healthy and they're as good as people think they can be, are you going to doubt Joe Burrow? Are you going to doubt Jamar Chase? I remember sitting at SoFi Stadium a minute and a half to go or whatever it was. The Rams had just taken the lead, and Joe Burrow hit Jamar Chase on the far sideline from the press box for a first down. Jamar scoots up the sideline against Jalen Ramsey, and I'm like, a first-year receiver, this rookie receiver, and this second-year quarterback, they're going to freaking do it. Like, no moment is too big for that. And that's how I feel. Like, a lot of these guys are cut from the same cloth. I feel like T. Higgins is that way. I think Joe Mixon has kind of embraced that and become that because of what these guys have meant to this organization and how they've changed this organization. Dax Hill, from talking to him, the first time I talked to him in a one-on-one interview, I'm like, oh, he's got it. Like, he's got whatever that is, the it part that Jamar brought and Joe brought and T brought and these guys brought, they got it. So when I look at it, yeah, I mean, even if the defense isn't as good as they were last year, and I think they have a shot to be better, if this offensive line stays healthy and is, let's say, 15th or 12th in the NFL, then I think Joe Burrow is going to throw for 5,000. I think Mixon's going to have a career year. I think he might throw, Burrow might throw for 40 touchdowns. He already had the franchise record last year. He might break his own record this year. So I think they should be really, really good if that happens. Now, do you need some luck in the playoffs? Absolutely. Everybody does. But they'll certainly be in the conversation and be one of the most fun teams to watch week in, week out, if this offensive line can hold up its end of the bargain.
Yeah, I'm with you, James. And it's interesting to me. I mean, everybody likes to talk about the receivers and Joe Burrow, but this new offensive line, these boys can run block, dude. They get it. They get after it, man. So Joe Mixon should be primed for a great year as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that right side. I mean, Kappa Collins, those dudes knock the mouthpieces out of guys, right? And so I agree with you. I think that they can be. He might not get more touches, but they can be more efficient on 3rd and 1, more efficient on 4th and 1, more efficient on 2nd and 3, which was a thorn in their side too last year. And if you can run behind those guys consistently and just let Joe Mixon get a yard past the line of scrimmage without having to cut or without having to get touched, and not 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, a yard past it, then he's going to average 4.8 a carry or something. And so he may only get 250 carries, but he's going to be much more effective. He's going to have more yards, and it's going to open up the deep passing game, because that's the thing too. If you're opposing defenses, you're going to want to take away those deep balls early in the year. And the way to counteract that, at least one way, would be some run game with Joe Mixon, which could open up the play action, which could do a whole lot of different things. But it does start with those boys up front and that offensive line.
Yep, I'm with you. Well, James, we'll let you go. I do have Jamie or Caleb, whoever is producing right now. I'm sorry. If you could put James on full screen, I have a question for James.
Hold
on. Okay. So if there was one thing, if somebody gave you a Cincinnati Bengals helmet to put behind you, what would you replace? Would you replace Tom Brady picture or the Kobe book? What would you do? Come on.
What would I replace if you gave me a Bengals helmet?
Which one would it
be? I don't know. There's probably
Spider-Man, maybe.
No, there's a Spider. Come on now, Spider-Man is the greatest superhero.
But you got the comic book and thing.
It would probably go right here.
Okay, okay.
Just right here. These two could go. It'd be right next to Tom.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe Dwayne Wade's right here. By the way, Dwayne Wade's right here. He goes unnoticed because I got a big head.
Yeah, you do. But that's true.
So that's the part too. Yeah, I like the idea of that. Look, we'll get a little. I have some stuff. I've actually had some Bengals fans send me some things. I'm working on it.
I got this for you.
Get a couple things here.
I got this for you if you want it. This is yours.
No, you don't. You don't got it. No, you don't. What?
If somebody were to give this to you, I just want to make sure it's in your backdrop. But this is yours. I'm dead serious. I'll text you after we're done. I'll drop it off to you. Your next time you're on anywhere, this has got to be in the backdrop.
You just have to wear it the whole interview, James.
You got to wear it.
I just got to wear it.
You got to wear it. You got to wear it in a press box too. I'm just saying.
Nah, you don't got to give me that, Jim.
No,
you're too good to me. Man.
It's got your name in here. Look.
Bengal Jim's gonna sign it too. So just so you know, he's got the silver Sharpie out. It's gonna be a thing.
Dude, James, and look, man, it's we always love having you on. I think you're one of the best, man, and we appreciate being on with us. And I know you got a lot of stuff going on, man, and I know you just came from Goodberry's show, which is a hell of a guy. But we love. Thanks so much for being on with us, buddy.
Of course, no, fellas, I appreciate you having me, Jim. I swear you don't have to give me that helmet. It's okay.
No, it's yours, brother.
Keep it as part of your gear.
I'll be texting you afterwards, brother. I'll get it to you.
The only thing we ask, we'll give you an opportunity next time to get about 100 push-ups in before we do the flex off with you and James.
Oh, I mean, if we were doing a push-up contest, well, Canada James doesn't want those problems. He's got better shot in the flex off. So, I'll just be honest there. We don't need to do that.
Come on, we got to do this once. Come on, Jamie and James. Come on.
Oh my God.
He won't do it, James. He won't do it.
It's not my, I don't know about you, James. It's not my contract.
James, we appreciate it, buddy.
Maybe after a few Bengal bombs, I'm good for now.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
We'll see you, big dog. Thanks again.
See you, bro.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Well,
he's always good to have on.
The Jamie Stevens episode will
I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna wear something different next week.
There's so many
Marissa's on. Thought there was a friggin' train coming behind me. What the hell?
Where did that come from?
Jamie, you need to get to the basement up there. Is Canada under attack? I think Canada's under attack. Get to the basement. What did you guys piss off Greenland or something? I mean, what's going on?
Greenland. Jesus.
Oh my God.
There's so many good clips out of this
guys,
episode.
we are definitely by the fans for the fans, and that was our attempt at I believe that was our 2-minute warning drill.
Yep.
I
don't think it was.
That was supposed to be, or is there literally a train behind me?
We do have some
warning drill.
Yep. We do have some stuff. We got some stuff lined up for several of the shows. We got our 100th episode coming up here, September 13th. So we got all kinds of stuff getting ready to happen on the show here, guys. So this is our 2-minute warning. We got something special next week when it comes to our 2-minute warning. James, Tom, we'll let you kick off the 2-minute warning here.
We'll let the next 72 hours play out. The roster will be settled in. There'll be a lot of speculation, a lot of questions answered, but a lot of the guys we like will be back. They'll be back in that locker room, just on the practice squad. But a little bit of a frustrating weekend. No NFL football, but the guys were at work. I really liked the question Coach Taylor answered after the game from Dave Lapham, which was, have you been putting anything in on the Steelers? And there was a long pause. And from what I read, a bit of a smile from Zach. And he said, we're always watching everybody. So there is not overconfidence, but I think they know what they need to do, what they want to do, and they're already working on it. So I can't wait for a week from Sunday, and everybody enjoy your Labor Day weekend. And we'll kick it over to Jamie.
I want to do this because I'm just going to end up being the part of the intro, but I'll give the fans what they want. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Ready?
See it.
There we go, baby. That's
Wow.
it. See the stretch marks? That's from being fat right there. You see those? There you go. Take me off full screen. I'm done. Like my last episode. Actually, no. Sorry, Marissa's on next week. I'll be back next week.
2 weeks. She's on
2 weeks.
Was it 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Man, you guys really want to keep me around. All right, I'm here for 2 more weeks.
All
I
right,
just
nice
made
to-
season 4 intro, unfortunately.
You did.
That
You
sucks.
absolutely did.
That sucks.
I don't know how I follow that up, but I guess we'll go to our charity here. And Tony sent us a friendly reminder: $3,200 raised thus far for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. If you want to buy a duck, go to the social media channels. Buy your duck. The winner will get 2 lower level seats for the Bengals game at New Orleans. So go to the social media channels, do that. And once again, thank you for Tony and Carrie and all their hard work on this. And we'll have a segment coming up as we delve a little bit deeper into season 3 here that talks about our charity efforts. We'll give you a running total of where we're at on that. And excited for the year. So we'll touch on it in the social media leading up to week 1, the charity that we'll have at the Steelers game on 9/11. And again, thank you, Tony and Carrie, for all your hard work.
Yep. As let's keep building on that a little bit, guys. I'm going to try to do this real quick. I'm going to try to share my screen if I can make it happen here. So I think that amount that Tony's doing there, that Tony showed, I think that equates into 64 ducks. We are only going to do in this duck race 100 ducks. So we're at 64 ducks. We have 7 more days. Next Tuesday, Tony will be on with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, kind of introducing them, explaining to you why we did this and what this charity is about. Our goal is to get to $5,000 or 100 ducks, and we're already at 64. You guys have been amazing. We kept going back and forth how we should do this duck race. This is these 2 tickets that TickPick has provided to us free for this charity fundraiser. These tickets are amazing, man. We're talking, I think it's section 124, row 15 and 16, lower bowl. They're going for about $800 to $1,000 total for those 2 tickets. So almost $1,000 package of tickets right there. So if you don't want the tickets, you can still donate to the charity to help get us to our $5,000 goal. Guys, there's so much stuff we want to share. We're going to have a segment on the tailgate. We're going to have Tony on. We have another surprise for you. We're going to have a tailgate segment that we're going to introduce you to here soon. We got some other people kind of helping in and around what we're doing. So we really appreciate you guys being with us. Pat McInally just texted me again and apologized. He will try to get back on with us. And guys, we appreciate it. This is the last weekend coming up without Bengals football. So make sure you spend some time with friends and family. Get to church Sunday. It's probably the last Sunday you'll be in church for a long time until football season's over with. But we'll see you guys next Tuesday night. Who Day, guys. We love you. Who Day.
Who Day.
Good day, guys. Cheers. See you next week.